You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wausau studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Hey, good morning. How was your Memorial Day weekend? Hope it was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed the beautiful weather. It's 8:06. It's nice to have you here up north on this Tuesday morning, May 27th. Feels like a Monday, actually a Tuesday. Parker is on the board. Greg will be back in 1 hour, and meteorologist Brittany Merlot is here. Chad Holmes not far away to tell us what he's covering at 98.9 WXCO. And then at the bottom of the hour, Melissa Baldauff will be here. Normally she's on Wednesdays, Dan Schaefer on Tuesdays. They are switching spots for this week. So we'll talk to Melissa Baldauff about climate, environment, and politics, all coming up in just a little bit. But as mentioned, Brittany's here with an update on forecast where the radar makes it look like there's widespread isolated showers throughout Wisconsin. But I was wondering if how much of that is actually hitting the ground and how much of it, you know how that is sometimes. It just hits the radar, and we've gone entire days sometimes where we're under a big green blob and it's like not a drop has fallen. And I sense that might be the case in some places today.
Yeah, that is the case right now. A lot of it's not making it to the ground across the state, but into areas like La Crosse and just south of La Crosse, you are seeing that light rain ongoing this morning. And of course, this is going to start to slowly spread throughout the rest of the state. So a little bit of sprinkles, some light drizzle, light rain is expected, and those clouds, we're going to be stuck with them all day. Slightly breezy this afternoon, but temperatures are pretty mild in the mid-40s towards Superior and Ashland to about 60 degrees into the Fox Valley and towards Milwaukee area right now. There is some sunshine out there, but that will become all overcast and cloudy throughout the afternoon. Some spotty showers and maybe a brief rumble of thunder is possible far northwest later this afternoon and evening, but we're not looking at anything strong or severe. It would just be a nice little rumble of thunder there. Highs today will scrape the upper 60s to low 70s. That'll be a repeat tomorrow. So do the rain chances. Still spotty sprinkles. Some scattered showers expected tomorrow. Probably total rainfall from this event would be around 1/4 of an inch in some places. So nothing too wild. And then by Thursday, sunshine returns, and so does the warmth. We close it out this entire week bright and beautiful.
80s.
Yes, 80s,
Mid-80s.
80s by Friday. Yeah, and into next week too. So summer weather is right around the corner after these two drearier type of days.
Okay. We were talking earlier about some of the zoos around Wisconsin and places to see critters. And Tony mentioned just across the border in Duluth, there's bears at the zoo there.
Yep.
And do you have a favorite place where you like to go in the zoo category?
I used to go to, was it the Wildwood Zoo over into the Green Bay area all the time where they have the wolves out? And if the tornado sirens are going off and the wolves, they'll start howling with it. It's pretty cool stuff.
Only you could come up with, hey, go watch the wolves while the tornado sirens are going off. That's cool. Yeah.
That sounds like
totally.
Armageddon to me.
It really
Right.
does, doesn't it? Yep. And but no, it'd be pretty good. Look at the power of the sirens and the storm and the wolves.
Yep,
All
exactly.
right. Thank you, Brittany. Have a great
You're
day.
welcome.
We'll see you later. Let's see. In the comment section from Ardith, I vote to have Laura Ann Bird have her own show on Civic Media. I hope Luke Mathers is watching. So there you go, Luke. You are on notice that Laura would be a great addition. Well, let's put the training wheels on first. Let's have her guest host a time or two, and who knows, we could get all kinds of folks. We mentioned Dr. Lyerly earlier. Well, I think we mentioned her. Here it is, in Robin Tigerton saying wishing she would run for governor, because we were talking earlier about potential governor candidates in the future here. And now she's got her own show on Saturdays on stations in Green Bay and Oshkosh. And of course, you can get it through the Civic Media app or out on the Civic Media website as well. All right. While we wait to hopefully visit with Chad Holmes today at 8:10, I wanted to pass along an article about Medicaid. And we've been talking a lot about Medicaid cuts. And then there's people like Derek Van Orden and others on the Republican side who say There are not going to be any benefit cuts. We're just going to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. And we're going to have these work requirements because we always hear how, able-bodied adults should be working. And the fact of the matter is a vast number of people on Medicaid are already working, but they're working for very low wages or they're working for employers who do not offer health insurance. And Medicaid is how they keep from, going bankrupt because of health issues. That's part of the good that it does. But under the guise of cutting so-called waste, fraud, and abuse and, making sure only able-bodied workers are there, come these requirements, these work requirements, and these reporting requirements. In other words, red tape. The party that always tells you they want to deregulate and that they're against red tape and they're against government bureaucracy definitely finds a way to use government bureaucracy and red tape when it's to their advantage, whether it's preventing people from registering to vote or preventing people from getting the Medicaid benefits they've earned because of, the work that they're doing. So here was a story that came across the wire from The Current magazine. Last summer, as political debate swirled over the future of Georgia's experiment with Medicaid work requirements, the governor there, Brian Kemp, held a press conference to unveil a 3-minute testimonial video featuring a mechanic who works on classic cars. The story here is about Luke Seaborn. He's a 54-year-old who became the de facto face of Governor Kemp's insurance program for impoverished Georgians called Georgia Pathway to Coverage. And in his soft Southern drawl, Seaborn explained how having insurance has improved his life in the year that he has been enrolled. He said in the video, "Pathways is a great program that offers health insurance to low-income professionals like myself." And Kemp, said Pathways is how they're going to decrease the state's high rate of uninsured adults while at the same time reining in government spending because of, adding those Republican-led Medicaid work requirements. But you go talk to Luke Seaborn now, and he'll tell you how in the 9 months since that video was put out, his opinion of Pathways has plummeted because not once, but twice, his benefits, his health insurance, has been canceled due to bureaucratic red tape. Seaborn recently told The Current, "I used to think of Pathways as a blessing. Now I'm done with it." There have been no shortage of reports of how Seaborn is emblematic of the hundreds of thousands of people who would struggle to get enrolled or maintain their coverage because, again, you can put in these work requirements which involve reporting requirements, which involve forms or online check-ins. And for Luke Seaborn, the car mechanic, he said that he was used to the routine at first. He would go onto this online system once a month. He would log in his work hours as required. But according to this report, his benefits were canceled the first time after he failed to complete a new form that he said the state had added without adequate warning. Seaborn said the form asked for the same information he'd been submitting every month, just in a different format. Now, at the time, because Seaborn had been in a video promoting this program, he knew of an insurance executive that was connected to him being in the video, somebody he could reach out to for help because he wasn't getting his questions answered from the state's Medicaid agency. Well, sure enough, thanks to those connections, within 24 hours, the benefits had been restored. And he thought, well, maybe that would be it. Because, again, he was playing by the rules. He was proving that he had met the requirements for every month having 80 hours of work or studying or volunteering. But even so, in March, he logged into the digital platform to make sure everything was good, even though the reporting requirements didn't require him to be there. He'd already been meeting the hour threshold. And yet there online was a notice that his benefits were going to be terminated on April 1st because he had missed filing an annual income statement. which was news to him because his coverage was not up for renewal. And so that's where we bring Chad Holmes into the conversation from 98.9 WXCO and talking about, I'll leave it with Luke Seaborn saying, my head exploded. I didn't get a text or an email. I did what I was supposed to, but that wasn't good enough. And Chad, I mean, it is the Republican waste, fraud, and abuse version of the shell game. We're going to put in these work requirements, and then we're going to change the rules around so you can't meet the requirements, and then we can cut off your Medicaid. And it's cruel, and it has no purpose other than to pay for tax cuts for the very wealthy. And it's just, honestly, it's just sick.
Yeah. You hit it all. You hit it all on the head. Number one, I apologize.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
I know. I was like, that's day after Memorial Day. We all go through it. So, did you have a good weekend?
I'm sitting at my desk, and I got a ball game this afternoon. So I'm printing out some stuff, and then all of a sudden I just check my email, and then I see a message from you, and it's like paging me, and I think, oh, come sprinting in here, and it's like, what? Oh man,
that's okay.
And I would have normally noticed it, but this morning I get in, and we're on 98.9 WXCO, and we're on 1230 WXCO.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, 1230 is not on, and I have two monitors. And the monitor by my desk is on 1230, so there's nothing coming through it right now. And normally I'm listening to you, and I'm, the segments, between, in the morning. So it's like everything. It's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, and I don't have my monitor. So all of a sudden I look at the clock, and it's like 13:14 after, and I say, oh boy, I left Pat hanging. So it's a
perfect storm. But I teed it up for you quite nicely because I know this is right in your wheelhouse too, of hearing all about waste, fraud, and abuse. When again, the people who are against bureaucratic red tape sure know how to put it in place if it's keeping folks from their benefits or keeping folks from registering to vote and things like that.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, it's just, I don't know if shell game is the proper way of putting it, but there certainly is not, there's a lack of principle. I can almost understand when you have disagreements based on principle. I think that, again, part of the whole idea of what we're trying to accomplish within our system, it is not a pretty system, not to say the least. But at least if you have some sort of intellectual honesty when it comes to what you're trying to get through. But boy, when you just change the rules every time that it depends on what we're talking about here, you switch it off. Oh, in this case, you need to have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. But here, you don't have to do it because it's the principle of the matter that gets through. That's the frustrating aspect, and I feel like we're going through so much where it's whack-a-mole in terms of, instead of just having, hey, if they truly believe that none of these earned benefits should be part of our system, then say it. Doggone it. Just come out and say it. We don't believe in Social Security. We don't believe in Medicare. We don't believe in Medicaid. We don't believe, because if you look at history, going back to the New Deal and even going back to the progressive era of the early 20th century, it's always been the conservatives that said, oh, we can't do this. We can't afford this. We can't, it's the wrong thing to do. But nowadays, they're trying to pretend, oh, we're not cutting anything. We're just taking away the fraud and the abuse of it. It's intellectually dishonest.
It is, and that's the whole point. So when Derek Van Orden again says nobody's getting their benefits cut, he's kind of got his fingers crossed behind his back because this is how they make those cuts. Chad Holmes,
it's all lies.
Follows it all at 98.9 WXCO. Thank you, Chad.
I promise I'll be on time Thursday.
No worries. All right. I will talk to you later. Still ahead on the program today, we'll be talking to Melissa Baldauff from the Heart of America's Up North, live from Lake Wausau on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
Welcome back on this Tuesday morning, May 27th, just about 8:23. And I'm going to use a point of personal privilege here to solicit responses to a personal question because it'll be fun. I've got 4 grandkids. The youngest is 3, then there's 6, then there's 11, and then there's the 18-year-old who is graduating high school at the end of this week. So I believe Todd Alba will be filling in here on Friday so that I can attend the young man's graduation. And we raised 2 daughters, so we haven't had this issue before with a grandson turning 18 and graduating. And the future plans are still kind of TBD. So there's no like he's going to this college or this school or this thing, so you can get him something related to it. So it's a much more general. What do you get for high school graduation gifts nowadays? Now, again, we're grandparents. There will be a little cash involved. That's the easy thing to do. Right color, right size, etc. But you always want something a little bit different. And with the younger grandkids, I mean, of course, that's easy. What's their favorite toy? The 6-year-old before Christmas, we asked, well, what do you want for Christmas? And he said, Play-Doh pizza scooter. And we were like, what? And sure enough, Play-Doh has a little scooter, a little trike thing with a little box on the back where you can make pizzas out of Play-Doh and then pretend to deliver the pizzas. You can't get the kids ready soon enough for jobs in the service industry. But I mean, that's an easy thing, toys for a 6-year-old. And yeah, Tony, like I said, cash money always works, but a little something else. So I went looking on the World Wide Web there to see what people were suggesting, and I did see some ideas in the New York Times in their wire cutter section, which is kind of their technology, tech nerds and things like that. And it included things like, luggage was a good example, because I remember when I was young and moving to college and then moving from the dorms into my first place, garbage bags, 60-gallon garbage bags would take care of things just fine, but you can't really check that in if you're flying home to see mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or anything like that. So luggage was, one good idea that was out there. I remember my dad's advice was you start with a couple of tools, back when it was, Sears Craftsman, things like that. And so maybe you've got the wrench set and then you ask somebody for the socket set. And pretty soon you're getting a cordless drill and you're building things up that way. Mr. Olson, you are much closer to your high school and college graduations than I am.
Oh,
I got, I got a Victrola back then and a Calliope. What about you? What kind of gifts are they giving young men these days?
I think it was just cash from what I remember. I'm not sure if I would have loved luggage. Luggage would have been sweet. That's a good idea.
Yeah, not the full set, just, one little roller bag or something. So you've got something halfway decent here.
Yeah.
We've also done the gas cards. Alicia mentions that on YouTube. Video games, a gift card for the console he plays on. We have done that as well in past years. So yeah, I feel like we're by and large, but we thought, well, for high school, maybe it's a little something else, So you're saying it was mostly cash money.
I think so, yeah. You can't go wrong with cash money. Mm-hmm. Does he have his college plans set to go?
No, that's still kind of like I said, TBD. And so we're looking for things that are more utilitarian. So I'm kind of scrolling through the wire cutter one, wireless headphones comes on there. Yeah. That's an interesting one. You could get something kind of in the jewelry category, like a ring or a bracelet or something that's engaged. You could do something that would go in a dorm room or an apartment, maybe a cool lamp, or something like that. Oh, here's one for just a portable coffee maker, either a little coffee maker or a bean grinder. The kinds of things that you don't think you're going to need, then somebody gives it to you and you go, oh, hey, this is pretty cool.
There was a stage in my life where I was asking for anything that you can put on a wall. Because I needed dorm room stuff.
Yes, you can't just have the beer posters,
exactly.
that we had back in my day. Well, that's where handheld cordless vacuum is on the list here. I cannot believe this one's on the wire cutter list. The air popper, the air popped popcorn. I didn't know that was even a thing anymore.
Oh,
that was the newest thing. That was cutting edge technology in 1982. Was here's this air popper, and everybody thought it was cool at first till we finally, were all truthful with each other and said that air popped popcorn tastes exactly like packing peanuts made out of styrofoam. You want it in the old fashioned popper, get a little bit better, butter, a little oil on there. But hey, maybe they're better these days than they were 43 years ago. Maybe things are better off.
That could be. I had my mom got an air popper a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember if it tasted like styrofoam though.
Okay, well, maybe things have come along. Tony says cordless drill is a fantastic gift. You don't realize how much you need it until you have it. He quickly adds, yes, with multiple bits as well. There's that one. Oh, Tony's got one more for us. I'll bet he'd love a Mornings with Pat Kreitlow poster for his wall.
I want to see that poster.
Wouldn't that be that would be so in keeping. Like, who's that? That's my narcissistic grandpa. He gave me a poster from his radio show. That's hilarious. I might have to work on that. I love doing photo gifts. What are they? Shutterfly, and there's a couple of others. I love doing that with coffee mugs with photos on there and things like that. So I really appreciate the suggestions that are coming in from Mary in Tosa. One gift to your grandson with your love of the environment and birds. How about a subscription to a nature organization to plant a seed? I did that as well as cash for the grandkids. Another very nice idea. So thank you all for that. I hope I got the wheels turning for either your own gift giving or if you want to send us a note later on. Hey, I got a couple more days before I've got to come up with something here. And I think that I will. Coming up next, Melissa Baldauff. But first, a reminder, sign up for our newsletters, plural. Head over to our homepage, upnorthnewswi.com, live from Lake Wausau. What a great place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Jackson Churio swung at the first pitch that he saw from the Boston Red Sox pitcher Garrett Crochet and knocked it out of the park, and that was the difference maker in the Brewers beating the Red Sox 3-2 yesterday. Starter Chad Patrick pitched 4 2/3 scoreless innings, giving up 3 hits, striking out 6. D.L. Hall is back off the 60-day injured list and did a little relief pitching upon his return to the roster. Game 2 is coming up this evening in the series with the Red Sox at American Family Field. Coverage begins at 6:05 on Civic Media stations in Hayward, Park Falls, Racine, Kenosha, Oshkosh, and Richland Center. And it's a day game tomorrow. I believe coverage starts around 11:35 for a midday game there with the Sox. No, I'm sorry. Let me double check. Yes, 11:35 is the start tomorrow for that game with the Red Sox. However, if you'd also like to maybe win Brewers tickets to go see a game in the future, well, this is the place to be. On Fridays throughout the Brewers season, just be listening to one of your favorite Civic Media shows on Fridays, and we'll be giving out a keyword that you can text in through the Civic Media app for a chance to win a 4-pack of great Brewers tickets. Complete contest rules can be found at Civic Media's website, civicmedia.us. to learn much more. All right, let's check in with Melissa Baldauff. She's in today. Dan Schaefer will join us tomorrow at this point. Melissa, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
It was full of AAU basketball for the most part, but it was a wonderful weekend. Got to enjoy some time outside and enjoy some lovely weather with family yesterday. So we had a great weekend.
Who's all playing AAU basketball?
Our 16-year-old boy is.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that keeps you busy.
It sure does, but it's a lot of fun.
I was going to say, do you do a bunch of the driving for it, or like going to practices and things like that, or is he doing that?
Well, yeah, blessedly, or maybe not. I guess it depends on how we look at it. It varies day to day. He got his license a month ago and is doing some of the driving to practice himself, which is nice. But it's always nerve-wracking having a new driver on the road.
Yes, it is, and
as you know.
But eventually you look back and go, oh my gosh, it was like Liberation Day, and not the Donald Trump kind, a true liberation from being, the bus driver for everything all the time. Hey, before we get into climate stuff, we were talking in our last half hour about the phony war on waste, fraud, and abuse in things like Medicaid and nutritional programs and things like that. And we were talking about the work requirements that are imposed, which are nothing more than, red tape and bureaucracy to deny people benefits. And you'd think that there would be better ways for our lawmakers to spend their time. But no, not only in Washington, D.C., but here in Madison. I'm looking at a new report from Baylor Spears over at the Wisconsin Examiner. Go to wisconsinexaminer.com. And the headline is, Joining National Efforts, Wisconsin Republicans Support Junk Food Bans. A pair of bills that would prevent low-income Wisconsinites from buying junk food and ban certain ingredients in school meals, taking inspiration from Robert Kennedy Jr.'s agenda. Representative Clint Moses, Republican of Menominee, is the lead author on both bills, and he says it's all about ensuring that the food that children and others are eating is healthy. The one bill would bar participants in SNAP, also known as Food Share, from purchasing soda and candy with their benefits. Now, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the nutritional value of soda and candy, but can we talk about the party that loves to say they're against big government until they're in a position to dictate what you do?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the hypocrisy here is just astonishing as always. I mean, I like many folks, probably remember when Republicans just absolutely had a complete meltdown when First Lady Michelle Obama talked about making school lunches healthier and helping schools maybe have a community garden to get kids to eat some more vegetables. So the idea that any of these Republicans actually care about what kind of healthy foods kids are eating is ridiculous, because that's not the point here. If the point was keeping kids healthy, what they would do would be to expand Medicaid and have kids get vaccines and expand SNAP and WIC, because we know that so many kids are not getting the nutrition they need. Republicans in the state would support Governor Evers' proposal to make school lunch and breakfast free for all kids, because we know that that was something that was a really great pandemic era program that unfortunately ended during COVID. All kids were eligible to get free breakfast and lunch in school, and more kids were able to have a nutritious diet then, because we know unfortunately a lot of kids, the meals that they get at school are the only ones that they can rely on. And if they actually cared about what kids were getting in school and the health of kids and well-being of kids, those are the kinds of things they would be focusing on. This is just another way to police what poor people are doing, to shame people, and to divide people, really. This is to distract from other things and to say, hey, you people that are, working class, middle class, instead of being mad at the billionaires that we want to give tax breaks to, you should be mad that people who are poor and have a little bit less than you might be able to give their kid a birthday cake and some Sprite. And I mean, that's really what this is. I mean, everybody, no matter whether they're working, whether they're poor, no matter how much money they make, I'm certainly not saying everybody should eat junk food all the time, but everybody deserves to be able to have a soda or a birthday cake or a candy bar every once in a while, like if they want one. And whether you're poor or not shouldn't matter. This is not about actually anybody's health. This is about dividing people, and it's really pretty sick.
And again, the hypocrisy over, reporting requirements like this, whereas they work so hard to not have reporting requirements for things like, the manufacturing and agriculture tax credit, which is just such a big corporate giveaway in the state budget, without needing to prove that you've created even a single job before you get this essentially corporate welfare from the taxpayers of the state of Wisconsin. They can do these things if they wanted to. They just choose only to do it to poor people instead.
Exactly.
And anybody else that, they feel like controlling that particular day. All right, let's move over to climate matters for a bit here, where President Donald Trump signed an executive order back on Friday. The intent is to quadruple domestic production of nuclear power within the next 25 years, a goal that experts say the country is unlikely to reach. But to speed up the development of nuclear power, the orders grant the U.S. Energy Secretary the authority to approve some advanced reactor designs and projects, taking the authority away from, wait for it, the Independent Safety Agency that has regulated the U.S. nuclear industry for 5 decades. So again, Melissa, this is not a debate about nuclear energy and which is a very valid debate, the zero carbon aspect versus, the nuclear meltdown thing. It's the way that they're going about doing it, saying, let's bypass the safety panel. How many more times do I have to feel like we're living a Hollywood blockbuster, the disaster movie, everything that happens right before the disaster happens?
Right. I mean, it's both the disaster movie and everything that happens before the disaster movie. And it's also the show Veep on HBO, because it is full of just the most bumbling, inept losers you could pack into a room. I mean, we've already seen what the track record is for the Trump administration on regulations, on safety. And, if the way they have operated our airline travel is any indication, people should be incredibly concerned about this. We know that they are always looking to take shortcuts, that when it comes to Donald Trump and how he makes decisions, we've seen it in his business. We've seen it with how he operates. I don't want to say with how he governs, because I don't want to, shame the word, but how he operates as president. It is always about rewarding people that he thinks will benefit him and how he will be personally enriched. We know that safety is not going to be a concern. We know that, integrity and, doing right by workers is not going to be a concern. So yeah, this is something that people should be aware of. They should be paying attention to, and they should have a lot of questions and have a lot of concerns about the risk here, because like you said, the debate on, whether we expand nuclear and how much is, the right mix of, that power generation, that's definitely a valid debate. But as I think in this story you mentioned, I thought this was really nailed it. I couldn't say this any better. The man, Gregory Jaczko, I don't know how you say his last name, so excuse me, sir, for mispronouncing your last name, but the man who led the NRC under President Obama said that Donald Trump's executive orders look like someone asked an AI chatbot, how do we make the nuclear industry worse in this country? And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yes. Yeah, it does. And again, there's something else that we haven't talked about. We haven't talked about this for a long time. It's been something that was a hot topic for a while, and then it kind of went to the national back burner. But the fact of the matter is, if we ramp up nuclear energy production again, we're going to have again have that discussion of what to do with nuclear waste, because we still haven't resolved how to store tens of thousands of tons of already existing hazardous nuclear waste. I couldn't even tell you, Melissa, the last time that came up in any kind of big public discussion, but that's still sitting out there as well.
Absolutely.
I got a feeling we're not going to hear any solution about that either anytime. Oh, actually, no, I take that back, and I say this tongue planted firmly in cheek, but you just know that if Donald Trump gets the chance, he's going to say something like, well, we're going to store the nuclear waste in all of these blue cities, in Chicago and New York, and rather than, a mountain in Nevada, because that might be a red state. And so he's going to look for some way to, again, I love the analogy of a disaster movie and Veep. I mean, it's the perfect mix of what we're dealing with right here. What we won't have as much time for here, and maybe it's for the best today, is that there's a Texas oil executive from Elon Musk's government, quote-unquote, efficiency team that has been given sweeping powers without Senate confirmation to overhaul the federal department that manages vast tracts of resource-rich public lands. But because he isn't up for Senate confirmation, he hasn't had to divest his energy investments, which include ties to Russia, or fill out an ethics commitment to break any ties with companies that pose a conflict of interest. Might we get into this next week? I doubt it. I think it's enough just to hear that that's exactly what's going on here and talk about it with Melissa Baldauff, as we always do. I'm Pat Kreitlow from the heart of America's Up North, live from Lake Wausau. It's Tuesday morning here across the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
Tomorrow on the program, Earl Ingram will join us, as will Dan Schaefer. Melissa Baldauff is with us right now. Parker Olson down in Madison. So I do want to get back to this guy who's going to be doing this stuff for the Interior Department. But you mentioned the basketball tournament for Memorial Day, which I'm guessing is not an annual thing, but the next one will be like 4th of July weekend. Do you guys have a 4th of July tradition that you're already looking forward to, or is it always, do you play it on the fly every year?
We have some friends in town who have a party every year that we look forward to every year, which is always a great time. And they are right across the street from the park on Lake Michigan, where Shorewood has our fireworks. So that's always a wonderful time that we look forward to every year. And of course, the parade here in Shorewood, we always have a good time with. So yeah, we like to stay in town, and then maybe every other year we end up going to some other parties during the day, visiting family and friends. And then, the next year we say, well, that was too much. Let's just one party. So.
And Parker, you said yours is much less about 4th of July, but more like Father's Day is an annual event.
Yeah, we don't really do a whole heck of a lot during the summer. 4th of July has never been huge for us. We just kind of hang out on Father's Day, get together with the family, hang out on the patio, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't like a Father's Day, like a golf outing every year or something like that.
Well, that would be fun. I would be on board for that.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. The Olson family is on notice.
Yeah.
Melissa, let me get back to the other article that we were talking about here, and it deals with, again, Trump's Interior Department. And the headline is, here's what a Texas oil executive from Doge is doing inside the Interior Department. And it talks all about this guy, Tyler Hassan, or Hassan, I think it's Tyler Hassan, who has no public administration experience, but he's been tasked to reorganize the Interior Department, which oversees 70,000 employees in 11 agencies, including the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Bureau of Reclamation, the U.S. Geological Survey, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. For the past couple of decades, Hassan has been at a company involved in the manufacture and sale of oil rigs worldwide. He makes millions annually from these companies owned by somebody who is well connected with Russia. As if all of this weren't enough, he is going to be reviewing, quote, every single contract, every single grant, according to the Trump administration, and the Interior Department's strategic plan calls for increasing coal, oil, and gas production through faster permitting and to generate more revenue from lands and resources to the U.S. Treasury. the fact that all of this does not require, it's in a position that does not require Senate confirmation, it should be enough of a red flag on its own. And I just feel like, again, there's very little that can be done to stop it, but I feel like you have to bring these things up from time to time so that I think the worst thing that can happen out there these days is complacency, when people go, what are you going to do? You should know about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. People need to know about things and need to know how outside of the norm they are. This is not business as usual. This is not just how both sides have always done it. This is not just how business operates and government operates. This really is extraordinary. We're also talking in this article about how Hassan has twice filed a notice in the Federal Register extending Trump's freeze on regulations, which keeps agencies from proposing or issuing any new rules. And he has removed the opportunity for public comment, which is really, I think, telling that they don't want the public engaged in what they're doing. They want to, push all this through as quietly as they can. They want people to not pay attention, but it's really extraordinary, and they're making extraordinary claims throughout the whole Doge operation, alleging that they have identified massive amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse, including apparently, Hassan is saying this, yet we're not seeing any evidence. And, I think that most people agree that, these extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And we are not seeing any evidence of massive waste, fraud, and abuse being rooted out by Elon Musk and, the Doge boys. So for them to continue to make these claims and then not lay their cards on the table and not show their work is even more disturbing. That they continue to operate and make these claims that they are, uncovering these vast amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse, but they don't actually, identify what that is.
From the text line, Steve in Milwaukee says, what is the Senate going to do with the big, beautiful bill that passed the House? And I've said before, but I want to know if you have I genuinely don't know. I don't know if they will scale it back, or if they will be the ones that go, you know what? Yeah, let's go big or go home. I also wouldn't be surprised if come October, when the fiscal year ends and there's supposed to be a new budget, that they still haven't worked out anything and they punt it and they kick the can again. It could be any of those things. I guess I'd lean toward the third option, but I don't know, Melissa, any guess on how this all comes out with the Senate?
Yeah, I think that it's anybody's guess. And I think, this is the consequence of what happens when you have a bunch of unserious people in charge. They don't know what to do. They are motivated not by, doing what's right by the American people, not by fulfilling any promises that have been made to help reduce costs and, make the economy better. They are motivated by, their political ambitions and their loyalty to Donald Trump.
And that's what it is about above all else. Melissa Baldauff, thank you again. Thanks for coming in a day early. We'll see you next week.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Now, tomorrow on the program, we're going to have Matt Brusky, part of a coalition of groups that would like Governor Evers to veto the state budget bill in its entirety if it doesn't reach a certain threshold of support for vital public services. Also, Dan Schaefer, Earl Ingram, thanks for being part of our Tuesday morning here. That's part of Up North News. We are part of Courier, a pro-democracy news network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. We'll see you tomorrow morning here up north.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.